Hello, hello.
What's going on, everybody?
How is everybody doing today? We are having a live stream today with one of our good friends, Rob Chopra. We are going to be chatting today about real estate mindset, products, coaching, some things that have worked, some things that haven't worked. We thought we would just keep it decently informal today and try to have a candid, open conversation. Rob is right where a lot of people were at. He works full-time job. He's really successful at what he does, and he's looking to scale his portfolio and buy additional rentals and try to navigate the complex process of being able to do that. So we thought we would have him on today to just discuss some of the challenges that he's had, some of the things that we're working on, and maybe it can add a little bit of value to what you guys are doing right now.
Yeah, we had a really cool conversation with him and Michael Watch from Watch Properties last weekend before that now at this point. But and then that's when we had Michael on our live stream there, and we talked about some of that small commercial product again, gave a little bit of an overview there, and then talked about some of the ways that we can utilize that product and helping investors leave that 9 to 5 and finding a new way to be able to qualify moving forward. And Rob was there for that chat, and a lot of cool things came up, and just some general real estate talk in general. So I guess this is part 2 of the of this series. We'll talk with Mike, and now we're gonna be talking with Rob. So
yeah, we're just gonna wait for him to get on here. Let's take a look at all these people on here. What's going on, everybody? Good to see you guys. Jeremy, what's going on? Hungarian Experiment. We got Kenny on here. Shout out to Kenny. Kenny just quit his job. He's joining us full time as of August as a broker. We're looking forward to it. We got the Ortiz guys on here. Nice to see everybody. What's going on? I think we're just waiting for Rob, the one guy we actually need on here isn't on here yet. So as we hang out here, we'll get into talking a little bit about some real estate. Currently, at the moment. Oh, one second.
you're good.
Currently, at the moment, everybody wants to talk about rates, so we'll talk about rates real quick. Subprime rates have actually decreased in the last little bit. We haven't seen a whole lot of pressure when it comes to rate increases as of recently. I think everything still stays the same in regards to status quo with what we think is going to be happening with rate increases next year. But as of right now, there hasn't been a whole lot of movement in the market. Everything has stayed pretty consistent. We find the market is softening a little bit. A lot of clients who are looking to get into purchases or properties at the start of the year who were having troubles and were getting outbid are now having a lot of success in their offers, which is really good. It's giving some people a lot of time now, whether that's the market softening or everybody going on vacation. Who really knows? I'm interested to see what's going to happen at the end of the summer, kind of thing.
Yeah, I think like Josh said, it's real estate itself hasn't necessarily slowed down, but I think we're getting a lot less offers on some of these buildings, so it's making it a little more competitive in that sense. Obviously still competitive where maybe you weren't at like 40 offers or 30 offers anymore, but still getting 10 to 15. There's Rob right there. Coming on in.
Look at that. We'll add Rob up in here one sec. The man, the myth, the legend himself. We were concerned for a second. We thought he wasn't showing up. We thought he was lost on the way. There he is.
Fellas!
We were worried about you, man.
Sorry about that. I thought it was 6 on the button. Yeah, sorry I'm late, guys. That's awesome. Good to see you, fellas.
Thought you were heading over to a golf course, maybe.
Oh, yeah. Tomorrow if the rain holds off.
That's funny. We were just talking about mortgage rates right now, and we've got a few questions coming up.
Yeah, sweet. Yeah,
really
awesome.
Quick. When you talk about softening, have new mortgages gone up or down? So in regards to new mortgages, like rates, insured mortgage rates are still extremely competitive. The variable term is still, I think, prime -1 at the moment, which is roughly about 1.45. Maybe 1.5 depending on the lender. Fixed rates have stayed decently consistent. We're not seeing a whole lot of variability in the market at the moment. Really good time to still take advantage of insured rates.
Yeah, and I think one of the real interesting things right now is when you take a look at some of these, B lender rates, You're looking at, I think Equitable just dropped their 1 year fixed rate to 2.65 or 2.64. There's A lenders that have 2.65 on like, some of their rates. So I mean, when you're looking at business for self guys who want to use some sort of stated income bank statement type products, that 2.6, that 2.74 is a super competitive rate. Yes, the term is a little less, but when you're looking at just an overall solution and ability to be able to get in and get that property, again, these are owner occupied rates, but it's a competitive rate up there.
And I read the question.
Yeah, new rates.
It says not rates. New mortgage applications. Mortgage applications are flooding in still. There's no shortage of people looking to buy in the market. I think a lot of investors are moving to a multifamily space, so maybe the single family and duplex space isn't necessarily as crowded at the moment. I think it has a handful of reasons that we're actually going to get into with Rob and talk about the transition to the multifamily space in general and why that is happening with real estate investors and why we think that trend is going to increase.
I think there's just a little bit more product on the market right now. It was pretty scarce at the beginning of the year, coming out of last year. I think we're just seeing a little bit more inventory, enough that it's kind of making a little less offers on some of the properties, but still not, I don't believe, a whole lot of inventory in the market. But I could be wrong. I'm not a realtor. Asterisks.
Rob, good to see you, my friend. Thank you
Good
for
to
coming
see you
on.
guys.
We gave everybody a little bit of introduction. Everybody who doesn't know it's Rob. Rob is a real estate investor. We've been in contact for quite a while now.
Yeah.
We were just able to really connect. We went out golfing a little while ago with Michael Watch. It was a good time. We had a few conversations just in regards to investing, what that looks like, and give a little bit of insight in what we do, and he gave us a little bit of insight in what he's working on. So we thought we'd come on here and just share a little bit with everybody about what is happening, what's working, what's not working, a little bit more just like informal life talk as to success and what is happening right now with investors and brokers and all that good stuff.
Yeah, appreciate you guys having me on, man. It's definitely great to see you guys. And yeah, that was a good day. Good day of golf. I'm looking forward to many more ahead.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. So if anybody doesn't know, obviously we are firm believers in social media. I was probably a little bit skeptic at first, and then realized that obviously the power of being able to be in front of everybody and have them understand you and hear your vision and where you're going is the most important driving force when it comes to growing a business and following a vision. And we've noticed obviously that you are focusing on that right now. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with social media and how that's working?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, first off, guys, thanks again for having me. And for sure, social media to me, I've really seen and grown into the importance of social media itself. Like in the last couple months, I've become much more active on social media. I'm making a lot more connections. I'm getting my journey and just sharing it with other people. And to me also, it's like a way of documenting my successes, my failures, and just getting my face in front of a camera just to really ultimately at the end of the day, just show other people kind of what I'm doing, what I've been up to. It's not how much a person is doing. It's more so kind of what you're doing in a day. It's really definitely changed my life over the last month and a half or 2 months. That's for sure. When I first tried it out, for me, social media was never really a big thing at all because I was like, well, what do I share? What do I put out there? Who am I going to attract? What kind of feedback am I going to get, and so on and so forth. And then what happened was I just started sharing it, and people just started messaging me, or people were engaging, and I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And then I started getting questions from other investors, and I was like, oh, this is neat. And with part of the networking aspect, social media has just ballooned in the sense of being able to meet certain people. I mean, Josh Aaron, the first, we chatted over social media is how we started. And then we didn't meet for the first time after many months, that went by until literally a couple weekends ago. So, and I think too, with that, it's almost like when we did meet, it's like, oh yeah, we've known each other for a while. So it was kind of neat in that perspective. And I think that's really super important. I've also been very cognizant of kind of whose journeys I'm following along and kind of what they're up to. It's a lot of it has to do with, you know, seeing people in the space, like in the real estate space, that are doing things that I want to do in, let's say, X amount of time. I try to quantify it not by how fast they're doing it, like I said, once again, or how slow anybody's doing it. Time to me doesn't matter. It's really my own journey and kind of how I'm getting there and using that social media space to do so. And I've managed to make a ton of connections like this through it. You know, a lot of the people that I've gotten together, whether it's golf games, dinners, drinks, you know, or just chatting and meetup clubs and stuff, a lot of them have come through social media. And you know, it's just super, super, super key. I don't have an issue now trying to figure out what to share.
Yeah,
You know, it's
I think when you peel back the layers of, it's not a popularity contest. You know, when I was in high school, it was all about popularity. It was all about, you know, you wanted to be part of a group or something, but you realize that that's not what it's used for anymore. It's actually just able to amplify what you're doing and to network and create genuine connections, or to push out, you know, a vision of what you're doing. It's so much more powerful because you kind of peel away the limiting beliefs of yourself. As you said, you know, what am I going to post? What if people don't like it? What if people comment on things that, and you know, I take it the wrong way? Like, so many things that are going to stop you from doing it. But the second you start it, you know, it's just one step after another. You're not going to be perfect the first step you take, or the second, or the third, but you're taking those steps, and eventually those steps snowball. You start getting a little momentum, and it grows from there.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that we, you know, like there's always been talk about social media and how strong it is, but when we first looked at social media, you know, we were like, you know, what do we have that would, you know, how are we able to create content and what we're showing? You know, it's one thing to maybe be, you know, like some of the car guys who are out there and they're showing off the cool cars and stuff. And you know, as a realtor, you're able to show your open houses or maybe some of your clients' properties. But as a mortgage, you know, brokers, we were like, you know, what do we have that is, you know, like some sort of quantitative thing to be able to show? And we realized that doesn't necessarily matter, you know, if it's visually appealing. It's just like, are you know, really it comes down to, are you providing value? And for us, you know, we noticed there wasn't anybody out there, you know, just spouting off the mortgage knowledge. And I think the biggest thing in the mortgage world is that there's just such a huge gap of, you know, what the mortgage professionals are and where the consumers are, and just an understanding and a more in-depth knowledge of that. You know, for us, it was once we started putting that knowledge out there and that value out there, you know, it got ate up so well, and the, you know, the response from the viewers was way better than what we ever really thought it was going to be. You know, we realized that, you know, that's it. It can just be two dudes sitting in front of a camera on a phone, you know, talking about numbers and mortgage stuff, and you know, it's going to be received better than you think. So, you know, it's the Gary Vee model. It's just providing as much value as you can, and if you find a topic and something to talk about that people find valuable, you know, you're going to get the follows, you're going to get the likes, the retweets, the responses, or whatever. But you know, it really is about creating that value, whether it looks great, or, you know, whether it just looks, you know, normal. The value is the key part, and that's really what pushes things forward.
Yeah, and you know, that's a great point, because I find, like, at the beginning, I was like, okay, well, if I try to put this out now, what do I got to do with it? And I was like, you know what, F it. I'm just going to put it out there, black lettering, great background, and see what happens. And the reality is, like, you know, you touch on that value aspect. It is all about providing value for me. I mean, this is the whole purpose. I'm on this journey anyways, to provide value and just show other people that what's possible. Some of the engagement that I get on posts that I would never think. And then next thing you know, you're talking about whatever, some sort of investing strategy or whatever it is, or you just keep a light conversation. And I think that's super, super powerful. You know, backgrounds and all the add-ons and stuff like that. I'll get to that eventually. I think it's pretty cool. I don't know if I have the time for it. I think I'll outsource all that stuff. But
yes, sir, game changer, buddy. You gotta get the kids.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, you know, it comes down to being an innate human and wanting to be part of a group and wanting to, you know, connect with other people. And if you can find people who are on the same path as you and you can connect with them and move forward, then it's definitely a way to create community, connect, and your network is your value. So being able to create those relationships, and those relationships are worth so much. It's hard to quantify the value of those relationships. You know, the friendship that we have, or like, you know, the people that you'll introduce to me or I'll introduce to you, and vice versa. And as you grow out those relationships and the value that comes with that. So be genuine and just create content that's going to add value.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and take a look at our first video we ever did, like a year and a bit ago. It was shot like 15 meters away from a cell phone camera in a poorly lit room with no microphones. And it has like 10, 11, 12,000 views on YouTube now. And we had a screen that like we were projecting onto. The lights were glaring on it so bad you couldn't read anything. You could barely hear what we were saying. It sounded like we were recording in a tin can. And everybody was complaining about it. Oh, I can't see this. I can't barely hear you guys. I'm like, but we have 12,000 views, so like, it's good. And, that video, it's, we thought about, like, do we take this down now? Like, now that we're putting out this much better content, it's like, no, let's just leave it up and let's just see how far it gets. And, it's still one of the first videos that pops up on YouTube where you look up Ontario mortgages or Canadian mortgages. So it's funny. I mean, like, but you can start with that, and then eventually you start to realize like what works, what doesn't work. There are some little things that I could do, and but it really just goes to show it's not necessarily about how great it looks and how great it sounds. That stuff will come, and I think it's kind of that old adage of waiting for things to be perfect before you start. And if you wait for that, you're never really going to start because there's always going to be something. We did that video in the middle of a pandemic. We were going to go shoot in London with Matt and his team, and at that time, COVID had just happened. We weren't really sure what's going on. So we're like, well, we still want to do the video. It may not be professional, and it definitely wasn't professional, but it was a good step in the door. And it was just, you got that awkward moment of shooting your first video done and over with. It was probably better that we did it by ourselves. So,
I remember shooting that video, trying to memorize what we were going to say, and like messing up and having to restart it again and then stopping and having to restart it again because we didn't know how to like edit videos yet. So it's a whole lot of awkwardness. If anybody has a chance, go and watch the video.
I'm totally gonna check out that video.
Yeah.
And I feel too, like, to add on to that, it's like once you get in front of the camera once, like it'll just start to appear. I'm putting out face shots. I'm not doing enough videos, but that's okay because I'm getting to the videos. I am working on something with a couple of other people in regards to getting some videography done and shooting some quick clips and all of that stuff coming up, which I think is phenomenal. But you just get that comfort, right? And at the end of the day, it's not a flex. Like, no, it's not. Yeah. You're not here to flex, right? Just be genuine, just be honest with yourself, and at the end of the day, nobody's there for judgment. And if they are there for judgment, that's cool, man. Block them, unfollow them, and see you later. Like, that's their mindset just going the wrong way. That should never turn you away, because behind that one person is multiple amounts of doors that are going to open. And I've shared this before. In the fact of, like, I had a huge failure last year, which is how I started my journey. And if I never went through that failure and I never shared that failure, I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be having these conversations that I am today. And I started sharing that to social media. I started sharing it to podcasts. I started sharing it to people that I first met, when they asked me, like, how'd you get started and stuff. Just put it out there, right?
Yeah. And that's it. It's very, very easy for people to be like, look at me, life is great. Look at me, success. Nobody shares. Look at me, like this happens, or like look at me, like this things go wrong. Like, it takes a lot to be able to go and show that side of things. And that's what social media is missing. Like, unfortunately, everybody's growing up with this unrealistic expectation of owning Lamborghinis and Ferraris and mansions in the hills and driving private jets, because everybody just one click away from living that life, and nobody shares the bad things. So, kudos to you, man, to being able to put yourself out there, being vulnerable. It's not easy. Mm-hmm. And, using it as power to move forward instead of kind of hold you back.
Well, if you're not failing with it and you're not sharing it, you're not going to get the Lambo or the house on the hills or whatever it is you want, right? Like, I just want to travel. I just want to be free at the end of the day. But, like, ultimately, the whole reason that I'm in this game in the first place is just to give back and just help other people. So ideally, at the end of the day, sure, I need the money to replace my day job. I get that, but that just gives me the time now to go back and just give it to everybody else. Yeah. Right. And now I'm able to help others. I'm just over 40 years old. I only started about 18 months ago, and I wouldn't give anything back for it in the entire world. right? So like I see the Lambos, I see the big houses, I see all that shit, man. Like I can't pay any attention to that. If it's on my page, I'm just like, okay, swipe. I want to find out like what challenge are you facing today, or what do you need help with, or what kind of deal might you be working on? Maybe how can I help you, or how can we help each other? And that's why I love the engagement aspect of it. It is a quick. I have kind of like part of my morning routine, and even in my evenings, I try to really keep my messaging to the mornings and the evenings. And then I find that way I'm able to capture, what happened from the day before, respond to some messages or initiate some messages that I want to, let them sit for a bit, and then go back and respond again, and kind of still continue over that conversation. And now you're developing a fantastic relationship over time. The engagement factor is unbelievable when you just share what you're up to. It's crazy.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the biggest thing that we notice is, by putting that content out day after day after day or week after, whatever your schedule is, we get so many first-time clients or first-time people who we'll have a conversation with. And, even though it's our first phone call, they're like, we feel like we already know you guys. Like, I watch your videos. And it's just that it's another way to connect with people. And it builds up that, it builds a relationship before it even starts. If you're able to put yourself out there, people get to know you a little bit. They know who you are. They listen to your story. They know what you do. They see you. They can recognize you, and people will build a relationship with that. And then when you do meet up for the first time, when you do have that first phone call, you've already put that time in, really unknowingly and built up that relationship, and it's already built the foundation, and you're already partly started. So, it's a lot easier to build on that moving forward and growing that relationship than it is just picking up a cold call and being like, hey, my name is Aaron, I'm a mortgage broker. How are you? What are you doing? They're like, I don't want to talk to you. Like, I don't know who you are. Now, like every time we have a phone call with a new relationship, it's like a 30, 40-minute phone call because we have so much more to talk about already just from the videos that are put out there. So it just having your face out there and talking about who you are and talking about anything really, it allows people to build that relationship with you before actually having that initial call. And if you can do that passively, I mean, your every video that's on YouTube or on your Instagram is now passively building a relationship for you. And at one point or another down the road, that's the next phone call that's going to go even better than it would if someone just called you out of the blue and had no idea who you were.
100%. I actually think Jeremy Ivan had a.
I think Jeremy's question was what challenges.
What challenges are you both facing right now? That is a good question.
That's a fantastic question.
What kind of challenges? Well, we have some news that we are going to be releasing soon. Exciting news. We are helping somebody with growing their business. They do a lot of coaching work, and we are trying to figure out a way in which we're going to create our business to help grow that business. It's quite a bit of business, and I think it's we have to figure out some processes in place. So hiring and figuring that out is on our plate at the moment. It's a little bit of a challenge, but nothing that we're scared of or nothing that's impossible. But
I think anytime you start a new business venture or some sort of business relationship, there's always questions that come into play, and you got to structure those things. So it's just a matter of how do we mutually help each other out and help each other grow. And I mean, in the grand scheme, it's about helping the investors, right, one way or another. So, from what we found is that as long as the relationship that's put in place and the structure and the processes have the end goal in mind of helping the investor succeed, it all just kind of falls into place and it all really just works out. And that's kind of really the same with every type of business and business strategy. It's just keeping the end goal in mind and keeping your focus on that, and whether it's money or success or whatever you want, those things kind of all just fall in line as you go towards your goal.
What about you, Rob? What's a challenge?
Absolutely. I mean, we talked about one of them there a couple weekends ago, but it's something I think that I just have to let go of, and I'm getting a lot better with it. I'm starting to have the conversations now, but a lot of it is just like my small daily tasks, right? Like I'm facing a challenge right now of just, outsourcing a few items that could really take a lot of my plate. Number one, it's still like, we had the conversation about social media. It's not that I don't want to it's not that I want to like outsource all of my social media. I'm still going to be the voice and the person behind the DMs in my videos and stuff. But there's some editing that I want to do. There's some actual video footage that I want to take. There's some branding I want to attach to my social media as well, and I just simply don't have the time. So that's one challenge that I'm definitely facing right now. And then I guess a second challenge for me that I'm facing right now that I'm actually coping really well with, which is how I started working with you guys as well and having some conversations with others, is I'm actually looking at a change of market. So I've been looking at a couple of different markets, and I'm looking to get into, as you guys mentioned at the beginning, more of a multifamily space as well. So it's been a challenge, but I'm definitely through coaching especially has really helped me with that. But oh, Jeremy, don't use time as an excuse. That's the part. That Jeremy, that's a great point. And at the end of the day, that's exactly it. Because it's like, I just want to outsource that part, focus on what I'm good at. And that took a long time for me to realize.
Everything. He just golfs all day.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. But yeah, I would say that's where I'm really challenged right now. And I know what I got to do with it, and that's what I'm working towards now. So it's going really well.
Good. It's outsourcing is always a cart for the horse situation. Like you always have to do it before you need it kind of thing, or else it just isn't effective. So there's never going to be an opportune time to pay someone to do a task that you should be doing.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, understanding that task isn't something that's going to be making you money, or it's not a green task, what we call the tasks that actually directly make us money. So we outsource those tasks to somebody else.
Well, I think the thing is too is I think the grand scheme of all this investing, whether you're investing in stocks or crypto or houses or whatever, your goal is to get your time back, and at some point or another, to get your time back, it involves you spending more money to pay other people to do it. So you have to be not afraid to spend that money, and I think that's the biggest issue with a lot of people who kind of live in that scarcity mindset, is that if you're scared to let go of your money, you're always going to be spending your own time on that because you're trying to hold on to that resource. And as soon as you're able to use that resource, you're going to get a lot more of that time back, but you're also going to start making a lot more money down the road as well too. Like for us, our limiting factor at first was that we were doing everything. We were doing all the client intakes, we were doing all the underwriting, all the document collection, all the liaising with the banks, all of the compliance at the end, and that limited how many deals that we were able to take on and how many clients that we were able to work with. And as soon as we picked up assistants and we were able to have them, do a lot more of the document collecting, that gives us a lot more time to be able to do, other more important things that are bringing in more, more business and allowing us to help more investors. And, having assistants that are fully capable of doing, some of these tasks. And, for some assistants, that means it's just learning the process, and that's going to help them grow, especially if they're looking to become a full-time, mortgage agent, or whether it's a real estate or whatever they're in. Taking that assistant role can really help you learn and understand the process. So it kind of goes both ways. It helps our assistants, get better at their jobs and use that knowledge moving forward, and it helps us bring in more business and helps us help more investors in the long run. So
I think instead of seeing it as an expense, you need to see it as investing in your new value. So the world might not know that your rate just went up to $200 an hour, but you do. Mm-hmm. And then you have to invest in a person and deal with the stuff that you can't deal with because your time went up. And now as soon as that person deals with all those tasks, your time did go up. And you got to keep going. So it's unfortunately you're the first person that has to invest in yourself and giving yourself that raise. And then once you give yourself that raise, the world gives you the raise. So
yeah, and that's a great point, because like as of late in the last few months, I'm just starting to fire out cash in various areas because it's like I'm getting a return on that capital. I'm realizing more and more and more, and now I'm at that step where it's like, oh shit, I have more that I can do this with. Right, which will just allow me to focus more, and just have those conversations that I need to grow as an individual and grow on my journey to get me to those goals. Every time that we get together, we've discussed, or any time that we've chat, we've discussed, what's that timeline? And I was having this conversation with Jeremy the other day as well. Well, what's that timeline? It's like, well, why aren't we doing it sooner? And I'm like, well, why aren't we?
That's the first question I asked you. It's like,
very first question you asked me. Like, why do you need, X amount of years, right? and for context here, for your listeners and everybody that's tuning in, like, April 1st of 2025 is my deadline. And it's like, speaking with you guys, speaking with Jeremy, and it's like, well, why does it have to be that long? And I'm like, oh shit, you know what? You're completely right. It doesn't have to be that long. So now I'm jumping up into like another step, like through coaching that's gotten me through all of these different little hurdles to realize. And it's like, when I just fire out that capital, it feels so good. And I say this to other people, what is your time worth? Are you going to go change the toilet at your rental property? What is your time worth? If that's 3 hours of your time, if it's 100, 200, whatever it is that you say that it is, or are you going to pay your handyman 50, 75 bucks or maybe 100 bucks or whatever to go do it for the 3 hours? Well, all day, if I can spend 3 hours with my wife, I'll pay my handyman 100 bucks, because that time is just so valuable to me.
Yeah.
And when you start to look through that lens and you see things through that lens, you start to really, that's where the growth is. And I'm starting to see that more and more through my growth of like the things that, like, I'm looking at my email, I could outsource this all day.
I would love to.
Right?
We're thinking about it.
Oh, yeah.
John Humble was talking about something like this the other day, where he was, talking about if you're an investor and you're spending, you still have a 9-to-5 job, and then all your extra time is you're spent finding tenants or going to the properties and fixing things up and doing the renovations yourself. He's like, it's not passive income. This is another active job for you, and you're still trading your time to make that rental income. Even though that rental income is, the tenants pay that every month, you still got to go out there and make sure they're happy with the plumbing, make sure they're happy with the leaks in the roof, make sure, this. Outsourcing that and truly investing in that and having a company that you've hired to manage all that. That is the investment that you're making, and you're spending a little bit of money, or you're investing in your company because you are now, a real estate investor or a property manager, and you're building your own company. You have to invest in someone to be able to take care of your properties for you, at a certain point, so that you can, just stop. You're not cutting the grass every other weekend. You're not going out there and fixing the clogging toilets and stuff like that. Now you can be out there looking and running at numbers for other properties, or going and doing walkthroughs at other properties, finding other ways to invest in that time. So, it's the same as anything. Fees on deals. How much is your time worth to you? Is it worth paying 1%, or would you rather be dealing with document collection and liaising with the bank all day, making sure your mortgage is switched? So at every step of every process, no matter if it's like micro payments or on the macro scale, everything is an investment into yourself at one point or another. And, spending smart money is always a great way to return, to increase your ROI in your time and how you're going to be able to move forward in that growth that you're going to make.
There's a difference between being lazy and outsourcing.
There's a difference between being on the golf course all day and not being on the golf course all day.
Yeah.
There's two differences. I think at the end of the day, too, it's like anything that you're putting your dollar towards, is it generating you revenue, right?
Yeah.
Is this generating you revenue? You're going to outsource it. If that time, like I've had the conversation with my wife about hiring a cleaner, hours in the time that I can spend with her, first and foremost, I cannot do what I do every day without her, right? So it's like, well, yeah, we're still having the conversation. I'm going to win. I know I'm going to win, but I just look at those hours like it's not worth it for us to stay home and clean the house for 4 hours. Let's go out on a date night or have, hang out together.
Not when you only get 4 hours in a week. Those hours are important to you. I can't justify cleaning our house, when we get 4 hours on a Sunday to enjoy ourselves. We'd rather just
Maybe just cooking. Unless you're making macaroni and cheese, it literally takes 25 seconds in a pot. To prep dinner, to cook the dinner, then to eat and clean up. It's like 3-4 hours of your day gone.
Yeah, man.
When you're working full 24-hour days, 4 hours, man, how much work you can get done in 4 hours? I mean, you take a look at why Skip the Dishes and Uber Eats are going to be so popular. At least for the people who are looking to maximize their time, I would rather spend the extra money and just order some food to the house and just be able to throw it out afterwards or recycle it for all, the environmentalists. That saves me so much more time than having to take the food out, cut it up, wash it, get it prepped, let the oven heat up for 30. It's great and it's fun, but it's a lot of time. And when you're working at growing and becoming an entrepreneur, every second that you have is valuable. So 3 hours to cook just dinner is a lot of time. You take a look, you also got to eat lunch and probably eating breakfast as well too. That's maybe 8 hours gone of your day sometimes. So
Yeah, and I mean, let's like, you know, there may be some listeners on here too. Like, let's not confuse things. It takes time to build up to that, right? Like
yes,
that's definitely also a mindset piece too, that you just have to say, okay, I got to trade this off for this trade. And I'll tend to ask myself questions of, does this make sense, or should I be doing it, or should somebody else be doing it, and what could I be doing with that time? So at the end of the day, it's like, you know, anybody that's brand new at this and trying to figure out how to do this for the first time, don't just go out there and start firing around cash and just say, oh yeah, everybody's taking care of
yeah,
everything, because then you're not going to have any clue of what you got to do. Think about each day. See, for example, like the day before, so the evening before the next day, whatever, however you say that, I will always plan out what my next day looks like. I will know exactly what I'm doing from the time that I wake up until the time that I feel is a good end to the day. And so those are absolute non-negotiables. Whether that's 3 things or whether that's 23 things, we have to be realistic with ourselves, but those are absolute non-negotiables. And if I can be using my time more productively to accomplish those things and outsource the rest, 100% all day.
yeah. And like everything, I mean, to your point, it does have to make sense financially. Obviously, if you're spending more on food than you're making in that month, even if you're working in those additional hours, obviously that's, you're not at that point. Just for the record, I don't order every single thing I eat. I do eat some real food in there, but there are some days where if you're slammed, when is that time worth then?
I think it also comes down to the value of what you do in a day as well. Like if you're doing something that doesn't necessarily have high return on your time, and you're maybe working like $25 or $30 an hour, it's very challenging for you to go order a $20 sandwich and have it delivered to your door. That doesn't make sense. But
No.
and Jeremy made a good point. Like if I can do one more deal in a day and make an extra $5,000, and I get to order my dinner in because I'm not spending an hour and a half cooking it, but that makes sense for us. Like it just time. I had this conversation with somebody the other day, and we're talking about how it's a commodity and how a lot of people, when they first focus on it, it's like Maslow's law. So you need to fulfill your basics. So you need to fulfill, food, sustenance, shelter, security, and then obviously you have to have money. But once you successfully have those things, you soon realize the only actual thing you really have is time, and you can't buy any more. You're not getting any younger, and you'll never get any back. And you can always make more money. So once you can figure out what you're really good at, monetize it, and then you can start to scale it. Then you can figure that out. But first, work on yourself, be an expert at what you do, then monetize it, and then start figuring out how you can optimize it. You can't try to optimize it without being an expert and figuring out how to monetize it first. So there's a few steps in here that you have to put into effect to make it really work. But those are the things you should be thinking about when you're trying to figure out how to either become successful or escape the rat race or whatever that might be like.
Yeah, I think one of the things that a lot of the Cashman tribe, the wholesalers were doing, where it's like time blocking and just sitting down in a day and taking a look at how much time do you spend doing things that aren't actually being productive. And you can start cutting out some of these other things and just sitting down and even starting from scratch and saying what is important, dictate those things first and have that list of things that you're okay with doing in your day. And then, spend a week in time block and figure out how much time you're spending doing on other things that aren't actually being productive or that you haven't deemed are important to, having a happy life. And you're spending, 30% more of the time just watching TV or not being productive on your phone. Start cutting that stuff out and allowing you to have more time for these other things that you want to have in your life. And I think that's, the important thing for anybody who's going to kind of set out on that entrepreneurial path and that lifestyle is, you have to be efficient with your time, or it's going to cause stress down the road. Everything's going to kind of build up, and you're going to feel flustered and frustrated.
Yeah, that's such a great point too. And I mean, look, here's the other thing. I mean, if you want to sit on your couch and you want to go through your phone and stuff like that, make it productive, right? Find something that you were already thinking about today, research it. Make a new connection. I don't know, look for deals. right?
Check your email. I don't know if you want to sit the couch.
Check your email. Make it, whatever it is that you're doing, make it productive. Do something today that you weren't doing yesterday that can propel you forward, no matter what that is. You know, sure, we all get caught up maybe sometimes in social media where it's like, okay, scroll for a second, then you catch yourself and you're like, okay, back up, right? It's like, you know, some people go in and they drop and they leave, right? Some people go in, they drop, they add value, they communicate with people, and then they leave. I mean, you can be on that thing all friggin' day. Ideally, at the end of the day, the cell phone has been designed now for us to do everything. I mean, like options trading, for example, options trading now. I mean, I'm on my phone first things in the morning. So it's like, okay, I'm taking a look at the market. Like you're always on your phone. No matter what you're doing, you're always on your phone.
The second I wake up, first thing I do, but my eyes are still closed. I can grab my cell phone and I can open it and I can see like, you know, my emails or whatever that is. And I'll lie to myself. I'll lay in bed for an extra 10 minutes. Be like, oh, I'm working. I'm checking my email, but I have one eye open. It's like
you got that one eye front and the phone bends a little bit, so the light.
Autocorrect was meant for the entrepreneurial, sending out like a one-eyed email at 7 in the morning. Like, autocorrect, okay.
And I think the other thing too, to add to that too, is like as you start to grow, separate the money. Separate the thought process behind the money. Don't think, you know, if you're always concentrated on the money, that's just going to lead you down a path like this.
Yeah.
Right? You have to want more than that. You want to have to be working for more than that. What is the purpose that you're doing it for? Okay, everybody's doing this for the money, but why? Right? Like Dean Graziosi has this fantastic exercise called 7 Levels Deep. I don't know how many times I've done that exercise. And when you actually peel it back, as far as you go, you actually get the whole purpose of why. When I share my number to people, what I need to retire or leave my day job monthly, they say, well, why not more? And I'm like, because that's enough for me. That allows me to do what I'm good at. And now that time will generate more revenue and more revenue. All of that stuff will compound. It's the compound effect, but it allows me to take steps to the next thing that I need to accomplish, whatever that is.
We talk about this with our new agents as well. Anybody looking to come into the industry, and so many agents will come to us and be like, all right, I'm a mortgage agent. We're like, okay. That's great. Well, I'm going to be a mortgage agent. I'm like, okay, well, what are you going to do? I mean, and every mortgage agent goes, I'm going to like help people. It's like, okay, sure. Like you're going to help your mom, your sister, your brother, and usually most mortgage agents do like 2 transactions a year for the sister and the brother, and that's it. The ones that truly get it dig deeper. Like, why are you truly doing what you're doing? Well, we do what we do because we want to help clients build generational wealth. Like, we are helping people every single day create monumental shifts in their lives. Like, the work that we do every day is the foundation blocks for generational wealth for generations to come. And we truly enjoy what we do. And once you figure out why you're doing what you're doing, and it's not necessarily monetary, and it's more, you know, you like that person. Like I like you. And I now know what your goal is. And, you know, what I do for a living can now help you achieve your goal. So, like, if you are able to add value, enjoy what you do, be really good at what you do, and share it with the world, there's a handful of different things that you can, kind of like a formula that you can put together to become really successful. And, you know, all boils down to why. And, you know, when new mortgage agents join our brokerage, we try to have a conversation with them about why are you doing this. And if they're just coming in for the money, it's usually they don't really work out because it's a pretty saturated market, and a lot of people are just there for the money. So you have to stand out. You got to be different. You got to really connect and jive with people, and that's the hardest part. So, you know, why you do what you do is the reason you get up. And when you're working 18 hours a day, you better have a really deep why, because there's going to be days you don't want to be doing it.
Yeah, when you're, you know, not hanging out with your family or friends or missing some cottage weekend and stuff, like it's great when you're making a lot of money, but when you don't have anything to spend it on, you know, like money doesn't become all that fun when you're working all the time. You're not spending as much of your money, so you still have to be able to like what you're doing. You know, I think they talk about that. You know, like you have to be passionate about your job, and I agree with that to some extent. I don't think you have to, like, your job doesn't have to be your soulmate, but I think you have to enjoy it, at least in some sense. You know, if you hate your job, no matter how much money you're going to make, you're going to be limited to how far you're going to be able to go with it. and how much you're going to want to dig into that and be able to expand and provide more value. So you do have to enjoy your job at least a little bit. But yeah, I mean, money is great and success is great, but when it comes at a cost and you're not enjoying that, it isn't as great as when you're actually enjoying your job. That's for sure.
Yeah, and 100%. And there's a mindset piece that gets added to that too. Like that why is just so deep. And here's the thing. Like, I like this comment here. It's only money. Well, the reality is, cash is trash. Okay, you can just build up all the cash in the entire world, but if you're not reinvesting that money, where are you going with it? Whether it's a business, whether it's real estate, whether it's gold and silver bullion, whether it's, I don't know, all that crypto craze that's going on, whether it's dividend stocks. There's multiple amounts of revenue streams and investing strategies that you can do, but you don't have to do them all. Just do one. Start with one. And when you start to just take that capital and reinvest it, that will just grow in itself.
Agreed.
And then it'll get you to that point where you can have that lifestyle, which goes back to your why of like why you're doing this in the first place. A common exercise that I have a conversation with a lot of people is very simple, is write down the 10 things that you want in your life on a piece of paper. The 10 things that you want in life on a piece of paper. Now, after you write those 10 things that you write on the piece of paper, put a 1 beside the ones that you can accomplish in year 1. And be very, very, very realistic and honest with yourself. Put a 1 beside those ones. Once you get a 1 beside those ones and you can accomplish that in 12 months, now put the rest in the drawer. Take those few things, write them on your whiteboard. And now that is what you're working towards. And in 12 months down the road, here's the thing. You haven't forgot about the other, let's say you put 3 on your board and 7 in your drawer. You haven't forgot about the other 7. Go pull that out in 12 months and watch how many of those you've captured. Now do it again and again and again and again, and watch how your life just goes way up. And your quality of life goes way up, because now you've got something that you're working towards. You've got, you've gone all the way back, you've peeled it all back, and you've looked at what exactly is it that I want out of all of this? Why am I doing this in the first place? And then you just start to realize, and you know what? Like, that to me changed my life a year and a half ago when I did that for the first time. My list is way longer now.
I just keep adding to it.
I just keep adding to it, but little things, man. Like, just, it doesn't have to be about real estate or stocks or your job or anything like that. It can be anything.
The challenge is people they have such ambitious goals, and it's not bad to have ambitious goals, but it's such a hard pill to swallow right away. Like, to understand how in the world are you going to be able to accomplish, being CEO of a company, or building that dream house that you have. How are you going to do that? Well, you don't have to know how you're going to do it. You just need to know how you're going to get there, or at least the first step in how you're going to get there. Like, nobody said, "Hey, I'm going to build a car," and then knew how to build a car. They started with probably the engine or the wheel first of all. Like, how do you make this thing roll? And then we figured out the engine, and how do I make these tires move and these wheels move? And start adding bits and pieces to make it work. So just don't get caught up with the goals and like how difficult they're going to be to achieve, because your mind will focus on the goal, and it's almost like a GPS, and you'll make it. Just tell people where you're going, be positive about it, put action towards it, and it'll happen. And without a doubt, every time, it's like it's a law. It's an unwritten law.
Yeah, we were talking about this when we were shooting videos with Matt the other day. Is like, the time goes by, like that first year, that second year, like the years go by quick when you're really investing in your business. Like it flies by. So you start thinking like, oh, 2 years away, it's a long time. It is not a long time. It goes by so quick, and you're going to be at year 2 of your business or year 5 of your business in what feels like the first year, and it really does go by so much faster than what you're used to, especially as a kid. But just, that thought in your brain, and your brain instantly is all about being comfortable. And 2 years away, oh, that's a lot of work. That's 2 full years. How long that's going to take, and it instantly starts putting you back in that like comfort mindset. But it goes by so quick. Like, for us, like the last year, has flown by. Like the fact that we're already a year into what we've started with the investing and when we first did our video and our social media, blows my mind, and how far we've come and how fast it's come in that 1 year. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy to think about, and even each month now we're seeing more and more return on our social media, and it's such a compound effect, and it really does snowball.
Mm-hmm.
It really does. Yeah, invest in yourself, guys. And without a doubt, invest in yourself. But you have to work. Like, however hard you think, I say this all the time. However hard you think it's gonna be, like, it's harder, man. Like, the success doesn't happen easily. If it did, everybody would do it. The dedication. Like, I remember being at university, being the most stressed out I'd ever been. Was studying for final exams, and remember being like, this is my breaking point. Like, this is the most stress I've ever been. People shouldn't operate like this. It's crazy. And there was a moment working this year when I felt like that. I was like, this is nuts. Like, the dedication that you need to have, to be able to do it, and you need to have that fire inside you. And somebody asked a question about it. We didn't touch it, but how do you keep that fire alive? It's innate. It's inside of you. Like, it needs to be more than just monetary. It needs to be more than just, that vacation. Like, it has to be the reason why you do something that's super uncomfortable that you don't want to do. And I'm not saying you don't want a job. I love my job. I love my business.
You need to keep it
1% caffeine.
Yeah, but I'm just trying to be real. Like, a lot of people see all the good things that happen with people who own businesses, and it's important for people to also realize that it's really hard sometimes. Like, it can be challenging to go for your goals. So don't underestimate how hard it's going to be, but you got this. Whoever needs to hear it, you can do this shit.
You know what? Like, I want to add to that. First of all, I got the shivers like 3 times over from like that fire, like what you just mentioned there a second ago, because that's how fired up I am, right? Like, you wake up with a purpose every single morning, right? Like 15 years ago, I was working in the casino industry. I only left 10 years ago. I was working in the casino industry. I had no purpose, right? I was waking up 2 o'clock in the afternoon, partying Tuesday, Wednesday nights, working every weekend, every holiday. I had no relationships, like, just shit. Pure shit, right? Now I wake up every single morning and I'm like, go. Like, awake, sure, I got to wipe the sleep out of my eyes, try to check my email or whatever, but it's like, bam, the minute I'm up, I'm gone. I'm working I'm at it. If I don't get up before the norm, if you want to call the norm, if I'm not up crack of dawn, basically, I'm not getting accomplished probably 50% of my list.
Jeez.
Of what I have to do. And that's just little things. That's whether it's reading, meditation, calling my mom, little things. It does not have to be business stuff, right? Mm-hmm. But it's just like little accomplishments throughout the day. Like, one of the things that I struggle with, I fast most days until after lunch. But there's days that I'm like, I know I'm going to eat that morning, and it's like I just push off eating. And my wife's on this, and she'll totally say something about it. But like, I'll push that off, and it's just like, well, because the fire is so strong, I got to get to where I'm going, and it's not fast, but it's effectively, right? Mm-hmm. It's reverse engineering it from what the end goal is. That's another thing to add, is just reverse engineer. If you have the vision, where you're trying to go, figure out what it is, work backwards. Mm-hmm. Go backwards and say, okay, you know what? I need X. Okay, I need to get these 2 things done. Okay, I need to bring these 2 people together. And then all the way back, and now it starts at the root where I am. Okay, what can I do today? Bam, do it.
Yeah. Yeah, we had consulted a coach or someone who had grown a mortgage brokerage quite successfully, and we were talking the same thing, like, how do we grow it to the $1 billion volume that we want to be able to do? And his thing was, you just got to look at it from a top-down perspective and figure out, what does that structure look like to be able to, for you to see that vision as you want to see it. And taking a look at it from top down just allows you to see, okay, well, if I need to be here, like, what things need to be in effect to be able to support the whole structure. And you have to take a look at it from the end, and things are going to change over time as you learn and you grow and you realize new opportunities and maybe new systems and processes. But you're going to have the general structure, the general outline, and be able to make those improvements as you go. So, this whole, like, winging it type thing and terms of starting a business, doesn't really work. And, not waiting until everything is perfect and winging it are two completely different things, right? Like you can still have a plan in place and everything not be perfect, but winging it is, not having any type of plan in place. So just understand what you're trying to get to, what your goal is, and have some sort of general outline of your structure. And it's going to give you at least some sort of path to follow as you're, trying to get towards that goal.
And I think the next step to add on to that is add a coach, right?
Yeah.
Like get a coach, whatever it is that you're trying to do. You're trying to lose some weight, get a coach. You're trying to eat better, get a coach. You're trying to fix your golf swing, get a coach. You're trying to buy more real estate, get a coach. You're trying to raise that capital, get a coach. I have multiple coaches in my life because for specific reasons. And without them, I wouldn't even be thinking the way that I'm thinking today. And it like the purpose of it too is like to add on to that is very much just like keeping you on the straight and narrow, right? If you put somebody in your corner that has been through it, that's experienced it, that knows exactly what they're doing, knows what they're talking about, they will keep you straight and narrow from making the same mistakes potentially that they made, but at the same time giving you the reason behind it as to why.
Yeah, and that comes back to the whole, like, how much is your time worth? Is your time worth enough to, like, why make all the mistakes when you can learn from someone who's made 99% of them? Learn from all those mistakes. Pay to have those. If you could pay to have your entire, this is just a generalized example, but if you could pay someone to have your entire life laid out and say, here's all the mistakes you're going to make, $1 million. I'd pay $1 million to know every single mistake I was going to make. If I can avoid all those mistakes and figure out how to guide, you know, you're going to save more than $1 million.
That's just
yeah, for real though. Like it's why,
printing.
and it comes back to social media. Like we decide, like we can make our own social media, but it's shit. Like I'm a mortgage broker. I do mortgages. Like I'm not a professional at what I do when it comes to creating content. So you hire somebody who's a professional who's going to be able to do that. Again, cart for the horse, the limiting mentality. And I'm not, there are people who don't have the funds to do it. And it's not necessarily an excuse, but it's very easy for somebody who has the funds to buy a coach, to have a coach, to be able to say you should get a coach. Find a way to have a mentor teach you about it. That's the grand scheme of things. But having somebody who's, like you said, who has experience, who's done it before, who can give you value and who can teach you how to not maybe mess up, how they messed up, will put you leaps and bounds ahead of the competition.
I actually, like, speaking of coaches, about somebody that didn't have the funds, I had a guy reach out to me previously, like sometime last year, and he was raising funds to hire a coach.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, I absolutely love this. He literally reached out saying, I'm raising capital. Yes, of course I knew him, right? But he's like, I'm talking to a couple of investors. Here's the X amount of dollars that I'm trying to raise. And I was like, oh, man. Like, if he's out there asking people to help him raise capital so that he can get a coach, what can this guy do when he gets a coach? Right? If he's got the work ethic now.
Your money is. So you really wanted that coach.
He just got creative, right? Like, he just got super creative. Now, the other part of it is, too, you're right, because a lot of people don't have the capital, don't have the funds to do it. But I want to add a little bit of mindset piece to that, too, is if you do have the capital and you do have the funds, look at it as an investment. Look at it what the $5,000 or the $10,000 or $20,000 is, whatever it is that you're spending. Look at that and what that can generate you over the period that you're going to be with that coach. And now, once again, it doesn't have to be monetized value. It can be a change in your mindset. It can be a better structure daily, whatever it is, a quicker way to analyze deals. A lot of us investors that are out there looking at the same deals in the same communities, we're able to do this on the back of a napkin. That wouldn't have never been possible without coaching.
Yeah.
For me, anyway. I'm a math guy, but at the end of the day, it's like, okay, if I get a phone call, it's like, hey, I got this, we're having conversations. Okay, we can just, like, back of a napkin, figure out what the cap rate is. And then that's just going to help you make that next decision. Now think about that. If that took you a week to decide on it, you called somebody back and said, hey, is that deal still available? And it's like, well, no. you know, somebody else grabbed it. And it's like, okay, well, what are you doing today that you weren't doing yesterday to make yourself better? I always continue to use that. Right? So find creative ways to be able to fund that coach, or get close to people, make good relationships with people, use social media. Okay, I'm going to put this out there for how many ever people are on here watching right now. Anybody that's on this live right now, if you reach out to me and tell me you'll take me for lunch, I'll spend 3 hours with you on whatever questions you have about real estate.
Jeez.
Okay, that doesn't happen enough.
Yeah,
I agree.
Right? Like, it doesn't happen enough. Just put it out there. Josh, what did you tell me on the golf course the other day about putting it out there?
Stop shooting it in the woods.
No. you said literally, if you just you said if you literally just put it out there and continuously ask for it, what happens?
It'll come back in abundance. It's the way the world works. Put it out there. It's the law of attraction. I'm not one to preach, but like, it works. You know, if you're a good person and you put out the energy towards what you want, and you put it out there and you're genuine and you have good intentions, you know, as I said, your mind is a GPS.
Yep.
Put it out there and it will find a solution to what you're looking for. So put it out there.
And look, Juan says, I'll take you for lunch. Cool. Juan, we're going to go for lunch. And watch what happens with that conversation. That conversation will provide value to both of us. And who knows in a week from now where that conversation may go. What if we're bringing you a deal?
You never know.
Yeah.
See, I look past this lunch, right? Like, I quantified my time there. Oh, God, here we go. We got a whole bunch. Hey, Nova Scotia is actually where I'm from. So I will be in Halifax in September, Step, if you want to grab lunch. But I was going to say, like, you know, you never know where that's going to go, right? And this is the whole thing. This is going to help me say, okay, I'm going to outsource these few things that I have to do right now because I want to go have lunch with Juan and see where that goes.
Yeah.
I'm trying to raise an abundance of capital right now. So why not help each other?
Yeah.
100%.
Well, there is no way to accomplish your goals than to tell people about them and to find people who can help you achieve them. You can't do it by yourself. Just go out there. And too many people are scared of what people are going to think about their goals or their thoughts or how they go about doing things. And not enough people are out there just doing it, because the people who are out there doing it are going to tell you exactly what we're telling you right now. Go out there and do it.
Yeah, just go do it.
You're not going to achieve it sitting there not doing anything. You know, you're going to achieve your goals by going out there and taking action and putting it towards what you want in life. And where's a good lunch spot in Stony Creek?
He knows where all the lunch spots are. He's one of my JVs, man. He knows where all the lunch spots are.
Well, if Aaron and I'll come, where you guys want to go to eat, let's go. Anyways, I think we're just running out of time here. I got a 7 o'clock I do need to be on, but Rob, it has been an absolute pleasure. You know, it's a little bit different than our live stream that we usually have. If you guys all enjoyed it, please hit the like button. If you guys don't follow Rob already, please follow him. If you don't follow us, follow us. We try to get out as much content as possible. This is going to be posted on all of our social media streams. We're going to have it on YouTube. We're going to have it on Facebook. And we're going to have it on our Instagram channel. So if you guys want to watch it again, please feel free to. And again, if you do want to go eat lunch with Rob or us, we'd all be happy to go grab some lunch together. Shoot us a DM and we'll make that happen.
Yeah, appreciate you guys so much, man. Thanks a lot for having me on, boys. And in all honesty, you guys are absolutely crushing it. I'm so happy to be a part of your journey as well now, working with you guys. It's absolutely phenomenal. And like Josh mentioned, just shoot me a DM and we'll get something set up. But yeah, thanks again, guys. I'm grateful for you guys, man. Unreal.
Thanks, buddy. We appreciate you coming on, buddy.
Yeah, buddy. Right. Take care, everybody. Have a good night. Cheers.
See you guys. Cheers.